Hi friends, this is Layla Harris, and I am here to show you my glitter card that I debuted on Monday. I was over at my friend Mary's house, and she had one that was a Christmas card, and I took one look at it, and I was like, oh, I like this technique, and I snapped a picture of it and came home and figured it out. It's pretty simple. Once you see the materials that are used in it, you're going to know exactly what to do. So today, we're going to make one with a different stamp set, and this one will be our guide for what we're doing. So I love this hexagon background pattern and our stitch dies, and so that's going to still be the foundation of our card today, but I am going to use a few different things. We have a brand new butterfly stamp set. It's called Butterfly Friendship, and it has these watercolor elements that fill in these butterflies, and the best part about them is that they have dies that come along with it. And one of the keys for this card is that you have used dies so that you can get 2 layers that are cut exactly the same. So now I'm going to do the big reveal of what exactly is this card made out of. So let me pull the light over so I can do a close-up, and you can see that it is glittery all the way out to the edge. And right now you can see the reflection of my lamp in the card, so you know that there's a shiny surface here. So this is acetate that we did the stamping and coloring on, and below it is silver glitter paper on each of these 3 layers. So there you can see it. And at this point you probably go, oh, I know exactly what you did. See ya. Go ahead, pause the video, or just jump into your craft room and go for it. Or you can stick around and see how I work my way through this video and make the card step by step. So before I get started on the coloring and the fun part, I'm going to say that this is an A2 basic size card base. And I cut this at 4 by 5 1/4. And this is the middle size of our new square stitch dies. And our dies are really neat because they do 2 things every time you run them through the machine. You can use the Big Shot, the Cuttlebug, the Grand Caliber, the Spellbinders, whatever it is, but I'm using the medium-sized one. And when you run 1 sheet of paper through, you're going to get 2 cuts. There's stitching here, there's a solid line here, and a solid cutting line here with stitching in the middle. So you're going to get a frame because of these 2 solid lines, and then you're going to get another piece from the inside here, and that's what we're using in this card today. A couple weeks ago I received these dies, and I've used this frame a lot, and now I'm using the centers that I kept from the previous cards. Along with that, I have this little banner here, and it's about 3/4 of an inch tall. I used the stamp of the month for January with it, and it is called Card Captions, and it has 19 sentiments, and most of these would work beautifully for this type of card because you can make this banner any width you want. Maybe sending sunshine and rainbows, you'd need to cut it and make it 2 lines, but otherwise this is such a versatile set, and it's pretty much the only sentiment stamp set I've used this month. These stitched lines, there's 2 ways you could go about doing it. You could cut up one of these squares, or you could use the dies that are called the border dies, decorative borders, from our catalog on page 118. You get 10 borders. And I chose to use this double stitch line. So I still have some left over, and depending from this, it's about 6 inches long. So I just took a small section of this for this card, and I'll do it again for the card I'm demoing. Now, I just used some washi tape to hold the die in place while I cut it, and away we go. I'm going to recenter this, and let's get started. So I said that we used acetate for the shiny part of my card. And that's exactly right. Now, I didn't just use any acetate. You can, but somebody said, oh, I hope this is all close to my heart. And today, my friends, we are using all close to my heart. Do you know we sell an acetate product? Yes, we do. We have shaker, window, foam, and acetate sleeves. And that we have the circle with all of the foam pieces, and that's great and wonderful, and I have foam for years. And then we have this acetate circle. Now, if you are just wanting to make one or two of these cards, I would just use my circles. There's absolutely no reason for you to go to another store and add one more thing to your collection when you have it right in your home already. Or you can use recycled items. I have used Cricut cartridge, acetate. I've used the clear packaging from my windshield wiper packaging that I got at Costco. Now that is a little bit thicker, but and it may be a little bit harder to get through your Cuttlebug or your Big Shot, but it will work. I'm just not encouraging you to go run to a store and buy something else that's going to sit in your craft room and might not be used when you have something of close to my hearts right here. And it's already hopefully in your craft room. So these are fun. They make great shaker cards. And let's get started. So these circles have a clear film on one side of them. And if you are really good at remembering what the texture feels like, sometimes you can figure out which side. But I'm just using a pointy tool and I'm going to scratch the surface. Even if this is a shaker card and you're going to pull the whole thing off and look through this circle, you can go ahead and scratch the surface and peel it up. And even if you get a little scratch and a ding here, all the border elements are going to cover that up. So let's just take that off and throw it away. If I were going to emboss this, I would use our anti-static pouch. And if I were going to use it for a shaker card, I would still use that anti-static pouch. And in fact, I wouldn't take that off until my shaker card was completely filled, sealed together, and leaving this on top because I don't want more static than necessary. But today we are just stamping, so I don't need to. This is an archival black. It is pretty much waterproof and rub proof, and so that's what I am using for this project. This is one of our old cases. The best way to open our old case is to realize that this is not this is only a latch plate. This is not a button. And then pry it open from one corner. So this ink does stain your stamps. So wash it off quickly or don't care. It's not going to bleed onto your other ink pads. Ink pads. It's not going to bleed onto your stamps when you stamp with a different color is really what I'm trying to say. Okay, this thing has completely disappeared from view of the camera. So I like using this because it has the foam backing on it and it gives us a smooth surface for stamping and a foam mat for good impressions. And it doesn't pick up any of the texture of the table, but unfortunately it's black and hard to see. Okay, when I stamp, I like to wiggle it back and forth a little bit to get ink in the crevices, and then stamp up and down to get rid of the texture of the ink pad. Just my little preference. I'm going to put it down here along the edge, so if I want something else up here, I will have room for another thing. Now, making sure that the ink is transferred really well, and it's stuck really well, I'm just going to rub it around. And then I'm going to gently pull it off and put it damp side up. This I'm going to immediately spritz. My pumper is so worn out, it takes a little bit of time. And so I got most of the ink off, but it still did leave it dark. The main thing is that you do not want to get ink on your blocks. And if you do, you want to get it off really quickly because then it doesn't stain. This ink really does settle into your blocks. and then you have to use chemicals to get it off, and then it reduces the length of the life of your block. Okay, so right now it is damp, and we're going to heat set it. And you can use a hairdryer with this, especially if you're a little overzealous with your heat tool. This is my heat tool that I've had since I was like 18 or 19 years old. And when it wears out, I'll get a new one. But you can see that this area is wetter than the center because it's showing up better on the camera. Stay back. You don't want to turn this into shrinky dink. Okay, the last comment I said when I was heating it was, I don't want to turn this into shrinky dink material. So now we are going to color on the back side. This was sort of like embossing. It went from shiny to dull, where embossing goes from dull to shiny, to make sure that it was dry. The body didn't stamp perfectly, but we can fix that when we're coloring. So I'm putting the ink side down. And now we're going to color. I'm using my Shinhan markers, and I'll show you the Shinhan markers I used last time. First, on this card is a very vibrant pink, and I used the cherry pink Shinhan marker, which is very, very intense. And then I also use vivid green, for the most part, with a little bit of leaf green. And a little tiny bit of golden yellow here in the center. This technique goes on as a thin coat, and you need alcohol markers for this process because you need something that will stick to the acetate. For this card, I am going to use some of the blues and the yellow. So I am going to use peacock green because I think turquoise blue is going to be too light, and I'm going to use marigold, or I will go back and use the golden yellow. Okay, my stamp side is down. So let's just try the turquoise blue. I love intense colors, and so I don't think this is going to be satisfying my need and my requirement, but we'll find out. I'm going to test it out by seeing how it looks over foil. And it's pretty light, so I am just going to try again and color over it with the peacock green. Unlike coloring on paper, it does sort of show your brush strokes, so color in long strokes, and I don't prefer to do shading. It kind of leaves funny looking puddles like you got it wet or something. I'm not sure how to color these butterflies. I haven't actually colored this one yet, so I'll just try my hand at a couple different areas and then fill in the rest of it with yellow. Now remember, the ink side is on the other side of the paper, so you can color without worrying about bleeding or moving the ink around. You do have to watch out where you've colored before, because you can end up blending really well. So that looks pretty good. I might add a little bit more around here because I see some white, and of course I went wide and colored outside the lines, but that's okay. Only you and I will know. I just went back over to my area and grabbed my black marker to fill in this area to make it dark. Now let's flip it over and see how it looks. Doesn't look too bad. I might blend a little bit more here and help the transition of them from really solid black to that. So now that I've colored it, I can cut it out. I use a Big Shot, but I also have a Cuttle Bug. And this has a magnetic plate, but that doesn't matter. I really want to make sure that this is going to stay exactly where I put it. And so I am going to use washi tape to hold the butterfly in place. Okay, let me move this back up into the viewfinder. So I bought my replacement plates blue. They have pink or purple ones, and I love them simply by the fact that you can find them more easily. So I'm going to line it up to the best of my ability. If this is not symmetrical, I might have to flip it over. And one more thing I'm going to do, because I don't want it damaged, is I'm going to slip a piece of paper under it so that the design of my cutting plate doesn't transfer or doesn't make dirty marks on my acetate. Just something I discovered along the way. Okay, I have some of our old retired washi tape here in our washi tape dispenser. This is the tool that I never knew I needed. I love it. I change out the washi tape. I've been using a lot of our washi tape to label our stamps for current ones and ones that are special and ones that come with thin cuts. And that if it's current for this catalog, this is the washi tape that we're selling. And if it involves a thin cut, I add this thin washi tape, which I didn't even realize was thin until I said it out loud one day. But this denotes what catalog and if it has dies with it. And it's really been helpful. And so I've used this washi tape dispenser a lot. This is my top plate. More washi tape. I noticed that my thin cuts sometimes would get embossed with the design of the plate, hence the white paper here, and it really showed up in when I use my watercolor pencils. And so I label it top plate with a T, and then it doesn't get marked up as much, and it reminds me. So, and it reminds anybody else that uses it. So I'm going to run it through once, and then again. So do it twice as much as you normally would. So we got a thin cut, but it's a little marked up. And then we have our beautiful butterfly. And there's a little bit of extra acetate feathers and that on it. No worries. Now I'm going to grab my sheet of glitter paper. It's just a scrap. You can see I've used this scrap a lot because those snowflakes are quite old. I usually use whole sheets of glitter paper through my Cricut, so it's been around for a while. And cut it. And it should cut just fine one pass through, like my Big Shot does every time. This one I used my magnetic plate with, and it's held just fine. So there's a little bit more here, and one trick is to leave a sticker or a post-it note or something that's visible. Like I just got this sticky like post-it note type tape at the Daiso. It's a Japanese dollar store not too far away from us and in downtown Seattle, so that I can find it again. Better yet, just put it away. But yeah, I like the bright colors. I use it for labeling my stamps in the sale. So now we are in the home stretch. So that is how you get that beautiful 3D effect and that really glittery way of doing it. So let's assemble the card. Hopefully I can find all my pieces. I started out assembling it beforehand. So I have a regular card base and this. This is the paper from the Card Workshop Your Way. It's also a bulk thing that you can get for workshops if you're a consultant. So I just kind of visually line this up to make sure. I also like to cheat to make sure that it's straight up and down by using the stitching guides on printed on the paper. So this one now needs to be layered, and I'm going to use mini glue dots. These are the mini glue dots we sell, and they're just over 1/8 of an inch in diameter, and I can put a few on the black area and it will really hold it down. They don't really show, especially if it's not totally solid ink. I would use glue dots instead of our liquid glass because they are totally flexible, and if you bend the card, the stuff will pop apart if you use liquid glass. Glue dots are your friend because they're flexible. I tie a little bit of twine around them to keep this from flying open and all that, and since the original boxes of glue dots for the minis were green, I used some green twine that I had on hand. The craft ones got red because they used to be in a red box, and the memory ones are blue. So I'm very color oriented, and so that's how I remember things. So here I have the butterfly. I think I'm going to add some little bit of 3D foam tape to lift him up. I don't think I'm going to bend the wings. I don't think it's necessary. So I will just use 2 pieces, and I can cut this in half again, especially if I get back in the viewfinder, you can see what I'm doing. These scissors with the black blades are non-stick scissors, and they are so good for cutting up 3D foam tape. I don't think I want it centered perfectly. So now I'm going to pick a sentiment. My favorite one is Thinking of You. It's this beautiful script, and I think it will fit here. My second favorite is Hello. We're going to see how this works. So maybe with the magic of camera, I'm going to re-record this part. Or maybe you're just going to see my mistakes. Or even better yet, it's going to work out perfectly the first time. I've never stamped over stitched items before. So what do you think? I think I got it too close to the edge so that I can't dovetail it very easily. So let's see. Oh, I know what I can do. I said it was too close here, so I couldn't do a dovetail like this one. So I think I'll put it over here and dovetail it this way. So I dovetail by doing a snip up the center, the distance I want, and then go in from both corners. Having little scissors like this is really valuable for this. Using a big pair of paper shears is not, because it could rip the paper right here. Now we need some more 3D foam tape, or we could use a few of these. That's probably what I should have been using because we're going to have a lot of these left over. but I'm going to continue with my thin foam because I've only used thin on that one. And I like to cut this into even thirds. This is the wider of the two rolls you get. Sorry, I keep going off camera. And that, so, oh, that's hanging off. So I'll just snip it. Give it another squeeze to make sure it's really sealed down to the paper before I take the backing off. So this is how I made that card. It's using acetate and glitter paper and our alcohol-based Shinhan markers. So I want to let you know that this stamp is only available this month, which means that it's going to be expiring really, really soon. But all of the rest of the items I have shown you today are available in our catalog through April because it's a brand new seasonal expressions. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe so I can be allowed to show this to more people and hopefully create more Wednesday videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.